welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek Buddies.
Hey! We're back at it with our main show today, and of course, we have a massive thing to break down, and that is that Superman trailer from James Gunn that dropped yesterday. As some of you may be watching it when this episode drops, we're going to break that thing down to a molecular level later on in the show. We're definitely going to jump into that. We're going to jump into some new trailers that dropped this week as well. We're going to get into some stories. Also get into the review of Creature Commandos episode 4, Chasing Squirrels. So much we're jumping into here in this main show for the Geek Buddies. But let's introduce ourselves. I am the Outlaw John Rooker, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you're going to be able to see me next year on Max's The Pit.
And I've gotten the first 6 episodes, so I might see if my boy, I might take a look and clock your screen time and see, so you can look for it yourself when you watch it. So I'm looking forward to it. It looks like a damn good show for sure. But listen, Michael, how are you feeling today? How are you? Where's your level of excitement? Where are you at right now? I know we're going to get to the Superman trailer, but everyone's been asking on my reaction. What's Vogel's feeling? Do you want to wait on that one, or do you want to tease it a little bit? What's your thoughts right now?
I just watched the trailer again right before we started, so I'm going to wait because I don't feel like I can talk about it at this moment without getting emotional and vulnerable, and I don't like doing that, so I'm going to wait. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but that's a spoiler to the spoiler that I was pretty happy.
All right, hold on, everybody. If you want to jump to our conversation, the time codes are down in the description of this video as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and subscribe to our podcast feed that's out there for you all to enjoy as well. All right, let's start off the first thing. The way we break it down is each of us brings up geek news items. We talk about it amongst ourselves, and we get into the main event, which is the Superman trailer. But let's start with this quick review of episode 4 here of Suicide Squad Chasing Squirrels. A lot went down in this episode here, a lot of shifts and changes, things that we kind of suspected, like with the princess, that there was more going on than we thought, and things got changed here, and we had ourselves a massive battle between Rick Flag and Frankenstein over the hand of the bride, because he's a super jealous guy who apparently gets mad at a moment's notice and goes crazy. But we got more insane visions of what's going to happen to the Justice League. We got some people teased who are going to be coming, including Superman on a crucifix, which was a really harrowing vision. And we had the backstory for the Weasel that came through this episode as well. So, Michael, what do you think of this episode 4 here, Chasing Squirrels from Creature Commandos?
Well, I kind of love that Creature Commandos is just chugging along. Like, obviously, the main topic today is going to be Superman and, like, the official beginning of the DC universe. But meanwhile, Creature Commandos is just sort of teeing things off and giving us tons of fun and little bits of information. And I think they're continuing to really knock it out of the park as far as some really fun storytelling. I mean, really, this episode kind of has the 3 chunks, as you talked about. Like, there is the Amanda Waller and Rick Flag kind of talking to Cersei and discovering what's going on and getting this vision about what is to come. And then we got the Weasel backstory. And then we have the hilarious Rick Flag Frankenstein thing that goes down, and which was like David Harbour is... There's a reason you cast David Harbour, and you really earned it this week with some of his bits. But yeah, I really loved it. I mean, I think that they're continuing each week to sort of really humanize these characters. So we have this group of characters that, like, most people, even like people who are aware of DC, aren't really aware of some of these characters. And each week, James Gunn is going through and really making you fall in love. I mean, particularly with Weasel, making you really care for a character that you didn't think that you were going to care about. I mean, that backstory is sad and tragic and dark as fuck. Like, it was really, like, it really got, I was like, I think when the explosion happened, killing 7 children, I was like, I think I literally out loud in my apartment just went, fuck. Like, wow. And then with the whole Cersei thing, to your point, we kind of knew this was coming. Like, although Cersei's not a great person, She seems to at least believe she's in the right here, and showing Amanda Waller that vision where we really got to see all these characters that some of which we know are coming, some of which we're not sure are coming, but like kind of seeing them all confirmed in this official kind of look at the DCU was really, really fun. And then I do think my favorite thing about this entire episode is when Frankenstein asked Rick Flag if he had seen Titanic. And Rick Flag said he had, and then Frankenstein said many people haven't seen this movie, and it's like one of the best, like, top grossing movies of all time. That and his complete misreading of When Harry Met Sally. Like, we didn't get a lot of Frankenstein yet, aside from the flashback. Like, he's sort of just been this presence, but kind of seeing where they're going with him, like, yeah, he's a toxic guy who thinks the bride was made for him and has a lot of issues, but we're going to play him for a ton of fun. Like, this is going to be a really, really fun, stupid, ridiculous character. And so all in all, across the board, I just thought this was I think this episode was as good as the GI Robot episode, which I was really, really impressed by. I think the mixture of everything they had going on here was fun. And Creature Commandos is definitely, as we go through these shows that we watch each week in the geek world, like, it's one where I wake up and I'm like, oh, good, awesome, another Creature Commandos to watch. Like, I'm genuinely excited to see where it's going.
Yeah. Shannon, what do you think of this episode? I think Mike hit a lot of the points in terms of things that happened in the episode, and I highlighted some of that as well. What stood out to you about this episode? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? Where do you think this is going?
I mean, another big thumbs up. I mean, what James Gunn, one of the things that he seems to specialize in, and Creature Commandos is no exception, is the misunderstood monster. Like when we met Weasel at the beginning of the Suicide Squad, this is just a monster. This is a mutated weasel, maybe human hybrid, an anthropomorphized weasel. But there's nothing to Weasel. Like, literally, Weasel jumps out of a helicopter, hits the water, and drowns. We find out later that the Weasel survived. Giving the Weasel this backstory where, again, we don't really know where the Weasel came from. I am unfamiliar with the Weasel from the comic books, but we don't find out where the Weasel came from. We just find out that Weasel is not this bloodthirsty monster, that the Weasel... Yeah, who kills children. I mean, like, literally was watching some kids kind of hesitantly, and it was the kids who basically lured the Weasel out, and it's like they've got their pet. I mean, it's like Mac and Me, but instead of an alien, I mean, it's a weasel.
Really, we're gonna go to Mac and Me as the reference.
What, you got a problem, Mac and Me?
Yeah, I got a problem with Mac and Me.
But I thought the backstory worked really nicely, and it was kind of telegraphed. You could see where it was going to go, but that doesn't mean it didn't work. Everything, like, I was kind of surprised the way that they picked up with Rick Flag and Alana, because I was just like, he's still very much into this. I was surprised with Cersei's vision, that the princess is at the head of that army. In my head, the way I started to construct it in my head canon was she wants to get pregnant because she's going to give birth to something. That was what I thought. I'm like, or she's just a thirsty gal, and the Khalistani guys are just not her thing. But my favorite part was the Frankenstein story, because even though everything about him that Vogel mentioned, the problems around him are true, and you still feel an element of sympathy for this guy, because it's just like, you just don't know any better, and you were never in a position to learn, because you are this walking tank that if you don't like what you hear, you just break the person in half. The poor helicopter guys. Yeah, we just got hired for a job. Like, you asked where this person was, we found them, and like, I don't care that you can't grow a beard, dude, and you're breaking my neck. The fight between him and Rick Flag, I thought, was so funny, until Rick Flag has the barrel of the gun directed at Frankenstein's eye, and you see Frankenstein start to cry. And it was so funny, but at the same time, it's like, oh, you big dolt, you don't know any better. And also the bride stepping in for Nina as well. Yep. As the other two monsters are kind of bullying her for her putrid looking lunch. Watching the bride come in as her, this new kind of friend, this new guardian, and not only gets her food back, but she takes apart this giant gorilla. So yeah, across the board, 2 thumbs up. Very enjoyable episode.
Yeah, to me, it's, what are the characters doing? How are we advancing the storylines, right? I mean, the humor is all good. Like, what is with Amanda Waller? That was all funny stuff back and forth about with Cersei. But this is a nice twist halfway through this season, right? Cersei, who they were seeing as the villain, is now actually trying to do something to stop the princess. And is that the princess who was the young girl there at the school? What's the connection with Alana there? Because she looks just like her. That pick, the blonde, looks just like her. So is that connected? Is she the princess? Is she not the princess? I don't know. Then she's the head of this army in this vision, and we're seeing some pretty harrowing stuff in these visions, which are unsettling on so many levels. And so to me, there's like a mystery here. All right, so I like it. I'm like, where are we going with this? We sensed her trying to seduce Flag so quickly was because she wants him on his side. Even the opening scene there, she's trying to touch his foot. She's trying to kind of keep him. She's playing like, oh, do you sure, Americans? Why don't you shoot her? Just shoot her. Ha, ha, ha. That's what I see on the internet. So, she's a bit more bloodthirsty than you think. So where are we going? So it connects that she would be in charge of this army in this vision doing these things. So Shannon, you might be right. Maybe she wants to give birth to the Antichrist. I don't know, but it's an interesting situation. But I mean, the fact that Weasel is the one who gets framed in this situation because of a misunderstanding, there's something really powerful in that. And then later, when you see the stuff with Frankenstein and Rick Flag, you're right. I mean, Frankenstein is a troublesome character. But apparently he really does like these rom-coms. He likes these romantic movies, but he misreads them and has no way to kind of put those lessons into his brain and come out with the right way to behave. No, he's a jealous freak, and maybe a piece of him doesn't want to pay these guys, so he creates anger to snap their necks so he doesn't have to pay him. I guess that's a way to keep your money. And then fighting Rick Flag all the way to the end. And they have an uneasy alliance by the end, which is a really interesting decision to make with the character that you would think would be villainous. But that's why you cast David Harbour, because even as brutish as he is, he still has a little bit of sympathy, as you were alluding to, Shannon. So, yeah, a lot here I liked, but and a lot here I was curious to see where they're taking us story-wise with Alana and the princess, and if she is that little girl in the picture, because it looked just like her.
I mean, she was blonde. She was blonde. Sure, I'll give you that. There's 2 blondes.
Blonde in a pink shirt. It was very clear.
Yeah, no, but I knew that. I mean, I think there's something interesting about Rick Flag. I mean, Rick Flag is in love with this princess.
Yes.
Not to beat a dead horse, but it was probably a good thing that we saw her seduce him when we did in the first episode, so that we really understand how he is so whipped right now. But I do think that the idea that Frankenstein is in love with a monster, the bride, who is part of this Creature Commandos monsters, and Rick Flag is also in love with a monster, and probably in love with a worse monster than Frankenstein is. So the uneasy alliance kind of make these two guys, when he's telling his whole, I mean, we kind of skip over him telling it, but when Frankenstein's like, that is a beautiful love story, and you're like, is that what that is? When he said, out of you and Leo, who is the king of the world? And Rick Flag was like, I think it's Leo. And he's like, you're the king of the world. I was like, this is a ride that I am in for. This buddy cop, this buddy rom-com comedy of these two running around the world together. I'm in. Give me more.
Well, I think you can be whipped without needing to have sex with somebody. But I mean, maybe that's how it works in your world. But look, you can't tell me that this is a stretch. I mean, you cannot tell me this is a stretch. There's a reason her hairstyle is the same. She's wearing pink.
All right, they are similar designs. They are similar designs. You're
animation. Fine. All right, I want to make sure. So there may be something there. But yeah, I like that we're giving our main characters some snags, right? Some conflicts, some obstacles. The Rick Flag thing, Mike, you alluded to, is a perfect example of that. How is he going to navigate this situation with the princess against his feelings? What is the real truth? And when he finds out the real truth, how is that going to affect him? Because remember, from what we saw in the first episode, he's still dealing with the loss of his son. So how is this kind of betrayal going to mess with him as well? It's going to be interesting to see for sure.
And I mean, just really quickly, I think again, looking at what James Gunn is building, is this is going to be the James Gunn DC Universe episode.
Yeah.
That we know we have Frank Grillo in Superman. And we also know that he's showing up in season 2 of Peacemaker. So we know, so we got this character who we are watching him deal with this team of monsters in animation. We are going to watch him dealing with the person who killed his son in season 2 of Peacemaker. And then he's playing some kind of role in Metropolis with Superman and whatever's going on there with that storyline. So, you know, in the same way, as Coulson in S.H.I.E.L.D., when you start to look at how you successfully build out these interconnected universes, it's characters like Rick Flag Sr. popping up everywhere, gray hair or not gray hair, to Shannon's chagrin. But like, you know, these characters that are popping up everywhere that sort of make things feel like a real connected universe. And so the fact that we're already sort of seeing that happen, and to your point, we're talking about his past with his son and we're talking about these things, like it's a good sign that even before we get to Superman and Supergirl and the things that are coming out, like they're making decisions that show that they understand the world that they're building, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got unreliable narrators, which keeps us a little bit like wondering what's the truth and what isn't. Because seriously, just because seriously gave Waller the vision doesn't mean that's an actual truth, right? So you get this thing. How much of that is actually being manipulated?
Well, they kind of made that point, though.
Yeah,
that she can't concoct, she can't fabricate visions. That this is what she is seeing as facts. And they absolutely need to make a Just for Men joke in Peacemaker 2 or Superman about Frank Grillo's hair.
That's a fair point. Probably should. All right. Well, there you go. Let's move on to some trailers here, Shannon. What do you got for us here today?
We got some trailers. The first one came out earlier this week for a project that kind of astounded me. Like, you knew that there had been a sequel sort of in development for a little while, but we get our first trailer for Karate Kid Legends. So the one sheet or a piece of artwork came out a couple of weeks ago and did not exactly inspire a lot of confidence. I mean, it had the look of like a Super Nintendo video game from the early 90s. But then we get the trailer, and you know, I'm a softie for Jackie Chan. Anytime I see that guy on screen, it brings a smile to my face. And knowing that now we're kind of acknowledging that Jackie Chan's character does have a knowledge of Mr. Miyagi, it's just like, oh, this just warms the heart. I think Cobra Kai season 1 was so much fun, and I feel it has gotten progressively more ridiculous as the seasons have gone on. And I was actually looking to see, like, does this take place within the world of Cobra Kai? And what I have read is it does, and it looks like Daniel's perhaps come upon some hard times, because we see him in a lot of suits or a gi, and right now he's in a workman's jacket. Like, it's definitely a different vibe. But watching these two together in sort of the mentoring of this new young Karate Kid, who is being played by newcomer Ben Wong, I thought this trailer looked like a lot of fun. And again, for a project that I was sort of a little wish-washy on, the first footage really kind of encouraged me. But Mikey, I'll throw it over to you first. What did you think of our first look at Karate Kid Legends?
Yeah, I mean, like, I agree with you. Like, I saw the trailer pop up on YouTube, and I was like, all right, here we go. Let's see what they cobbled together. And then I watched it, and I went, I don't know if this is just because I grew up at the exact right age in the 80s, but this is working for me. This is doing it. You know, I think we're probably getting close to the end of the cinematic era, where we take all of the IP from the 80s and bring back that cast and put them in a movie and have new characters. Like the era of nostalgia cinema. I just have a feeling like we're sort of getting towards the tail end of it. But that being said, like, it's still, there's a reason that we've had this era of cinema. Like, it works. Like, and to have like the movie franchise, the reboot of the movie franchise, and then going, okay, let's put this all together. That feels like it should be an unholy studio executive Frankenstein monster that you're like, oh shit. But every once in a while you get this thing with this trailer and you're like, did they maybe do it? Did they get this? Did they get this right? It feels like they might have gotten it right. Yeah, just felt good. I do think the existence of this movie and the trailer kind of being as good as it is owes a lot to Cobra Kai. I agree with you that Cobra Kai just kind of kept going, maybe past the point that it should go. But Cobra Kai was one of those things that kind of took the nostalgia, let's recast these characters, and did something different and really new and fresh that was a little bit unexpected that really, really worked. And it feels like tonally, this movie exists because they sort of saw what worked in Cobra Kai and said, okay, let's build into something bigger. And it really, I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited about something I did not think I would be.
I mean, you can tell the difference between how Ralph Macchio looks from a TV budget to a movie budget. He looks great in the movie, but Johnny, who do you think? Mr. Han, Mr. Miyagi? Who's the real Karate Kid legend?
Well, I mean, it has to be Miyagi because Han's only had one movie. But but the thing I liked about this movie, and I said this in my reaction, which is up on the channel, I liked that there was a seriousness to this, that it wasn't just let's make this like fun and let's make it we're gonna survive and get over things. Like, it wasn't trying to play to the lowest common denominator of your feelings. It actually was trying to bring an importance and a weight to this story. And I think the line where Mr. Han says to LaRusso, like you were to Miyagi, this kid is to me. Like, that's how important it is for me to hand over this student to you. It's an important thing that's happening here. And clearly it feels like he can train him where he's training, but maybe he's going to the States. His family's moving to the States. So he hands the training off to LaRusso. And then eventually it's going to swing back where he is going to fight in this international tournament, the young kid. And they're both going to be training him to fight in that tournament, which I imagine looks like it's on a roof somewhere. So to me, overall, I was super surprised at how just weighty this thing was, how honest it was. And it reminded me of the first Karate Kid. And I'm like, this is going all the way back to the beginning, kind of like Top Gun Maverick did. Went all the way back to the beginning, kind of evoke those moments, evoke those feelings that people loved about the first film, while also very clearly taking the material seriously. And so I like that they had that effort to it overall. And the Karate Kid the karate action was fantastic. And I'm wondering how he's going to blend the styles, because this is Kung Fu and karate. Is he blending the styles? Is it more of an open tournament? I'm just really curious as to what we're leading to in terms of the training between both of them. And Han knowing Miyagi, that is massive. Did he train with Miyagi? Was he trained by someone who trained with Miyagi? What is Miyagi's reputation in the world? So these are these things you have to learn about. Because remember, in the first film, Miyagi has hidden himself away to be a maintenance man at a building, right? What was the story of Miyagi after World War II and all the stuff that happened with his wife and the concentration camp that he was in? What happened in all those intervening years that made him just kind of hide away and become a maintenance man? I wonder if Mr. Han has the key to even more of that background to his character. So yeah, all of it, all around was, and the young kid looks great. So I'm 100% on board with this.
Well, Karate Kid Legends comes out May 30th of 2025. That brings us to our next trailer. This is the second look at the Electric State coming from the Russo brothers and Netflix. So, after that first trailer came out, like, I have certainly not read this original novel, but a lot of people had some feelings about how the movie seems to be being portrayed versus what is actually in the book. In terms of what we get in this trailer, we get a little bit more backstory on Chris Pratt's character, and that we find out he is an ex-soldier who basically changed his mind, had a change of heart in terms of this war with these robots. We find out a little bit more about Millie Bobby Brown. They're on the search for her brother. But again, the scope of this movie, again, having not read the book, I mean, I'm only kind of getting like the broad strokes of what the story is going to be. The scope of this movie, no matter what you think of the last few efforts from the Russo brothers in terms of story, and it has been a little uneven, the scope of this movie is just huge and looks incredible. And I think we're all crossing our fingers for a huge Russo brothers win here. But Johnny, I'll throw it over to you. What did you think of our second look at the Electric States?
Well, like I said, this one sold me much more than the first one. I liked the heart of the story of the brother thing. Like, that came through really strong through this trailer. And I'm like, okay, now I'm invested in this journey even more to see what it's leading to. Hearing Stanley Tucci say, I'm on this side of the fence, and that is that I don't think these robots wanted to help us, because how could they know what it's like to be human, right? That's always the thing that is in all kinds of robot science fiction, android science fiction. How can they actually relate to us if they can't be us, if they can't feel like we do? And so the emotions chip for Data, those kinds of things in Star Trek, So it's an element of this. I like this. So the battle lines are clearly drawn. And then hearing Chris Pratt have an emotional moment where he's like, you know what? I fought these things till I realized I was on the wrong side of this war. And so this idea of the progressive change of your mind where you started in one place, end up in another. So there's a lot of philosophy that's coursing through this second trailer along with the heart that to me makes me very interested now to see where we're going. I know there's going to be humor and all of that, but the philosophy and the trying to find my brother storyline, that's what's hooked me into this one more than the first trailer did.
Mikey, you ready to flip the switch for the electric state?
Oh,
God. Well, I mean, I think that you can't discount the fact that although, yes, this is a Russo brothers movie, and yes, they have not had the most pristine record, this is a Russo brothers Marcus McFeely movie.
Yeah, true.
That foursome, when we talk about movies that have epic scope that shouldn't work, that really do, they have two of the biggest movies of all time that are the most epic in scope that shouldn't have worked, and they did, with Infinity War and Endgame. So I watched The Gray Man. We all agree about The Gray Man. Like, we're all on the same page with the Russo brothers directing record, but this team of writing and directing together, I think is a team that I wouldn't count out. And I really do like the story. I think that right away, even from the first trailer, the whole concept, when we do robot apocalypse movies, usually when you're doing the robot apocalypse movie, it's important to the movie to make your robot look scary. So that's where you get, you know, the creepy robots in iRobot, you get the Terminator. Like, we've had our fair share of the robots are going to take over and kill us. Like, we have been telling that story for a long time, to the point that when we're walking around LA and we see those cute little delivery bots, we're pretty sure they're going to try and kill us at some point. Like, we're really ingrained in that. And I like that this is kind of taking it to the next level, both in the design of the robots, but in the story. It's like, hey, we talk a lot about robots wanting to kill us. Maybe the robots aren't the worst thing that's living on our planet right now. Like, when we're looking at where we are as a society, we've got plenty to deal with the issues that humanity has. And if anything, maybe robots are going to show us the way. And so I do kind of like a movie that says, we had the robot revolution, we had the Terminator moment, we had the thing happen, we all thought Skynet was happening, we booted all the robots over here. Oh, guess what? The robots are actually pretty sweet. So like that's kind of a new take on the robot apocalypse story that I'm excited about. And like I said, with this foursome, I hope it's good. Like, it would be great if this movie came out and we were all like, holy shit, these guys really know how to nail the story.
Right.
Well, The Electric State comes out March 14th on Netflix.
Yeah,
and
but
also
wait, hold on a second. You keep saying you're afraid of this stuff, but you still keep getting into driverless cars. So I don't know. You know, I need to know.
I love robots.
Oh, okay.
I'm ready. I think driverless cars are the best thing that ever happened. I would take a driverless car everywhere. I think it is so much fun riding around in a driverless car. When that thing picks you up and it dings and it, like, you get in there and this voice is like, hey, Michael, thank you so much for taking this car. Like, it's the best. I love it. I would take it everywhere.
Okay, to push back on this statement ever so slightly, when Vogel was in my driverless Tesla, he was clutching the sides. He and our friend Jonathan Gabay both were like, we were driving down to Disney. He's like, I don't know if I want you to have the autopilot on.
So to be clear, there's a giant difference. Maybe not giant, maybe like a 5 foot something difference between being in a car that is 100% being driven like by AI, where there's nobody in the driver's seat and you're just in the back and it's going, and being in a Tesla with Shannon where he puts it on autopilot and is constantly jumping and grabbing the steering wheel because he's not sure about what it's doing. It wasn't the AI part that was making me nervous.
There are some creative liberties being taken with this story right now.
To be fair, I've been in a plane with you and I've seen you jump and grab the wheel when things happen.
Hey guys, look at this great. Look, I'm not driving. Ho!
Hit the brakes, Shannon. Hit the brakes! And we're off the runway. I remember those days.
Anywho, The Electric State comes out March 14th on Netflix, and that brings us to our last trailer, one that's going to be coming out probably around the same time as The Electric State. It doesn't have an exact, it has a spring 2025 release date. It's called Death of a Unicorn. So every once in a while, a trailer will pop up that has, you just have no knowledge about a movie coming out, and I just see Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, and I'm like, I wonder what this is. Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega are going to the massive estate of a pharmaceutical family, Sackler-esque family, and as they're on the property, they hit something, and it turns out that something is a unicorn, and they end up finding out this carcass this unicorn is the cure to literally everything that ails mankind. And then they find out that unicorn was not alone. This trailer came out of the blue. I was laughing so hard at this. It also stars Téa Leoni, Richard E. Grant, and Will Poulter, who played a pharmaceutical rep in the incredible Dope Sick series from Hulu. I loved this trailer. This is from writer-director Alex Sharfman. Super enjoyed it. I'll throw it over to you, gentlemen. Mikey, what did you think of Death of a Unicorn?
A24 has really just cornered them. Like, in a world where we're like, oh, all we do is make these giant IP-driven tentpole movies, A24 has come along and been like, well, we're going to do our own thing. And they just continue to like do it. Like, they've really like built this reputation for it's going to be weird, but it's going to be something. And this trailer is weird. It goes from, oh, it's about this father and daughter that hit a unicorn to, oh, this is a parody of pharmaceutical companies and it's kind of a dark comedy, and then all of a sudden the parent unicorn shows up and you're like, or this is like a dark comedy horror satire, I don't know. Like, it is just tonally all over the place, but in the best possible way. Like, for a trailer, like it's a 2-minute trailer, to zig and zag so many times, to just be like, this is wild. I mean, everyone looks like they are delivering stellar comedic performances. I was like, and like the cast is just stacked, and killer unicorn, killer angry mama unicorn. Like, I'm in. Give it to me.
Johnny, Death of a Unicorn. You happy with it?
I'm just really surprised because this is Alex's directorial debut and the first full-length feature script he's had greenlit that he is directing, right? But he's been a producer on a number of films, including one that I enjoyed back in 2019, Blow the Man Down, about these two young girls investigating the underbelly of their town and what it reveals to them. It's a small little film that I just saw randomly, and I thought it was damn good. And so to know that he's a producer of these interesting films, it's an interesting jump he's making, but clearly he's got some really strong connections to get this cast together. This is a damn good cast. A lot of them, Jenna and Will Poulter, very much on the come up, and a lot of veterans with Rudd, Téa Leoni, and Richard E. Grant being a part of this. Of course, Richard E. Grant plays the crazy scientist, in his sleep, for God's sake. So to see him go deeper into this, I thought was a lot of fun to see. But yeah, this one was so wacky out of nowhere. It felt like a horror movie you've seen on the shelf. You're like, I don't know, unicorn killer. And then you watch this trailer, you're like, holy fuck, this is scary. And especially the scene where that darker unicorn is screaming into the face of Jenna Ortega. So what is this all leading to? What is the point? Because it seemed like the unicorn was still alive. Did they kill the unicorn so they could study it and get all the medicine they needed out of it? And clearly, as you said, Shannon, this is a commentary on pharmaceuticals and on testing on animals and whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see if this works, because the trailer makes it look fun, but will it hold together when you watch the movie? As sometimes it doesn't with these A24 films,
I mean, this one gives me Ready or Not vibes in that I'm like, I don't know what this movie is. Now, even Radio Silence, who directed Ready or Not, they've not been able to replicate their own success with that movie. Like, that movie was so good.
Yeah.
But fingers crossed for Alex Sharfman and company, because this one looks like a blast. Spring 2025, Death of a Unicorn.
All right. We've delayed it long enough. It's time to get into it. Let's roll up our sleeves here. We are going into this trailer that was released as we're recording this. It was released earlier this morning. I got up at 5:30 a.m. to do a reaction video to this thing at 6:15. It was hell on earth, for God's sakes. I had to take a nap afterwards, but this is out. The Superman trailer is out from James Gunn here. It's just incredible imagery throughout this trailer with him and Lois. We have him and a mysterious robot, which Michael might know who this is. We got ourselves a little Guy Gardner up in this mix. Lex Luthor, looking, as many people have said, Agent Hitman 47 here. But we start and we get Crypto the Superdog being a part of this trailer as well. But where we start is a Superman in a really a broken situation physically, who needs Crypto to bring him home. And then throughout, we get a kaiju, a metamorpho, a Hawk Girl, and a Mr. Terrific being a part of this trailer. So, Michael, you're our resident Superman fan, not only because you're wearing the shirt, but anyone who's listened to us or watched us for an extended period of time knows how big of a fan you are of Superman and the battles we've had over what kind of Superman is the right Superman. So, what are your thoughts on this trailer? What stood out to you? What worked for you? What's your feelings overall, brother?
Yeah, I mean, look, like you said, anyone who knows me, like, I love a lot of things. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I love the MCU. Like, there's a ton of things that I love.
Yeah.
But I think I love Superman far and away above all others. Like, Superman is the peak for me. The Christopher Reeve Superman, Smallville, Lois and Clark, My Adventures with Superman, Superman and Lois, Superman the Animated Series, like, all versions of Superman, with the exception of one that John Rocha really does like. And even that one has its moments. It's Man of Steel is definitely not my Superman, but there are moments when that trailer for Man of Steel came out, I was blown away by that trailer too.
Yeah.
So Superman is definitely up there for me. Seeing this trailer this morning, it was pretty fantastic. I mean, from the moment that he whistled and I knew what was going to happen. Like, he whistled and I'm like, oh, this is where we're going. And I got texts from people asking questions, particularly our non-comic book friends that were like, dog has a cape? I got a lot of the dog has a cape ? Text messages this morning. But I think like James Gunn really, like, this is not the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a very different vibe. Like, and having the dog super speed through the snow, grab him by the cape and drag him off. All this, we are in a different cinematic universe, and James Gunn really came out strong with that statement. Like, not only is this a universe where all of these superheroes already exist, so we're diving in, and that this isn't an origin story, but this is a world of kaiju and dogs and little capes. Yeah. But for all of that silliness and Silver Age fun that James Gunn has been saying from day one he was going to bring to the universe, this was emotional. I mean, that the John Williams score with the electric guitar, like, really just, it set a tone. And as many people have pointed out, as a detraction, Twitter has been wild this morning.
Yes, it has.
This is not a trailer where, we talk a lot about Superman being the big blue Boy Scout. We talk about Superman representing hope. We talk about how Zack Snyder wanted a Superman that was more serious, that felt like an outsider. And then the Christopher Reeve fans don't like that. But then everyone thinks Christopher Reeve is cheesy. This is a bright and shiny Superman. But this trailer, as John said, it opens up with him crashing into the ground, a bloody mess. And then we have shots of people throwing cans at Superman's head. Like, this is a world where shit is going to be going on. And I think that combination, as I said, Man of Steel is not my vibe, but I do feel like this was a trailer that there's the Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner vibe going on, but there's also some Man of Steel vibes here. There's some shots in this trailer that are very reminiscent of some of the things that Zack Snyder was doing in Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman. And I kind of feel like, based on this trailer, like, we've seen a lot of good trailers and the movies haven't lived up to it. But based on this trailer today, I am feeling very, very excited that this might be the Superman that we've all been waiting for.
Wow. Shannon, your thoughts on this trailer? What stood out to you? What worked for you? With any reservations you had? What are your thoughts on this trailer?
Well, first, knowing that it was going to be released at 6 a.m. here on the West Coast, I told my wife last night, like, I've never, Superman's not my guy. I've enjoyed Superman comics. I've enjoyed Superman series, films. He's not my guy, but I still enjoy Superman. I was so excited for this morning. I told my wife, I'm like, this is like Christmas coming a week early. Like, I'm so excited to wake up and have this thing to open. So excited that I woke up at 4:15, wide awake.
Oh
And
no.
if the option were to, like, you know, old school it back when I was a kid, I would wake up at 4:30 on Christmas morning, be like, Mom and Dad, get up. If I had that option to have done that, to wake my wife up, to make her get the Superman trailer released early, I would have done it. So when I finally did wake up and watch it, this was a fantastic trailer, like really, really well done. Like, do we know how the movie's going to turn out? Of course not. But the trailer delivered on what I think James Gunn is trying to do. The moment that, again, when Clark whistled, is like, oh boy, here comes Crypto. And I've never seen Crypto portrayed like this. I mean, and again, I don't have as wide a berth of knowledge for Superman as Vogel does, but watching that little dog kick up that enormous dust cloud, snow cloud, as he is racing towards Clark, I was just like, oh, this is fantastic. There's just some really great shots in this one, just from an action perspective. Like when you see Superman cover that girl from that explosion, and just the way that he grabs her head as well. Like there's just so much, to me, there was just so much thought in the composition of that shot and how Superman is actually holding this child, that if he is off by a few degrees, he could kill her. So watching that happen, I was like, oh, that's really, really interesting. Like cradling the head right here. Seeing the giant kaiju, getting those brief looks at Lex, seeing Guy Gardner in live action with that stupid mop bowl cut, everything about it just got me got me very excited. Watching Mr. Terrific with his drones creating that force field. I showed the trailer to my wife. I made her come and watch it, and she's like, this seems like a lot, and I'm like, I think that's the point, because this world already exists. Like, this is a world where seeing a superhero is probably not that uncommon. So knowing that there is this much in it, like we got the quick shot of Ultraman, I was super happy, and I'm very curious how they're looking at this trailer over at Marvel. Wondering what our first look at Fantastic Four is going to be.
Yeah. I mean, given what we saw of Fantastic Four at Comic-Con, I don't think they're too worried. I mean, two totally different vibes, but that Fantastic Four trailer is going to come out and blow everyone away. Like, I just based on what we saw, not concerned about that. I do think, you know, your wife brought up a good point, and I have heard this from a lot of people. I was also texting with people about this. People, particularly people who don't know the heroes of the DC universe, there's a lot of people that are coming away from this trailer going, this was too much. This was overstuffed. Like, there's too much going on. I don't know what's important. Like, is Superman even going to be in this movie? Like, it just feels like it's all these other heroes. And so I think that is, as far as criticisms of the trailer go, I think that is a valid criticism. Sure. It doesn't bother me personally, but because I'm like just looking at old friends up there, you know. And also I think that because I know, just based on what we've seen and based on behind the scene footage and based on what we've heard, like, you know, we saw in the trailer, we saw Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, and Guy Gardner. And we know that those four are part of Maxwell Lord's Justice League International, whatever they're going to be called. But like, those four are a team already. So like, they kind of work in conjunction. And I think that to do a movie where you're going to say Superman is a different kind of hero, you actually need to see what the current heroes are. So having these sort of corporate superheroes that are doing their thing and then having Superman, I think having that counterbalance could really work. It's definitely a lot to take on. And if we were living in an era before, you know, Civil War and Avengers Endgame and everything else, I'd say, I don't know that you can have this many heroes in a movie. We know that you can have that many heroes in a movie now, but doing it as your launching point is definitely, it's a big swing.
Yeah, to me, there's a gutsiness to this trailer that I was really surprised by. Like, not that James isn't gutsy, not that James doesn't like to go places like we just talked about in Creature Commandos. That vision of the Justice League and Superman being crucified is pretty insane to put that visual out there in an animated show. But I liked that he was willing to touch on people's sentiments for the 1978 Superman, not just with the theme, but the care, the respect for the character. As you said, Shannon, that slow motion shot of him saving the girl, that's Superman, right? That's Superman. the moments with Lois that are really tender, and her, like that last shot of her hugging him as that orb is hanging in the sky, possibly leading to the final fight. You're getting the love, you're sensing the chemistry between them, right? You got that. But as you pointed out, Michael, that opening was gutsy. To open the trailer with him being slammed into a wintry location, and he's bloody and he's whistling. Maybe the last bit of effort he's got left in himself is to whistle for the dog, for Crypto to take him home, take me home. What is happening here? There's a gutsiness in that. It wasn't like, in far across that. There wasn't that kind of easy approach that you could have just made it all magical. It's much more harder edged. Having the person throw that can at Superman from behind, which we also saw in the Zack Snyder Superman, that was a nice allusion to the fact that our current world would absolutely question a Superman like this. Might have issues with a Superman. If Superman saved these people but didn't save these people, why didn't he save these people? So I like that he's making it a reality while also making it fantastical with a fucking kaiju in the middle of the goddamn trailer, and Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner and Mr. Terrific all being able to show their ability to use their powers. And we've got a Metamorpho, and we've got Stag Industries. We've got all of that in this to add to the elements of go on. And we don't even have a LexCorp. It's Luthor Corps now, which I think is the first time it's ever been called Luthor Corps. So these are these interesting things for people who are hardcore comic book people and hardcore superhero people. And I get the point, of course, from people who aren't, to watch this movie. Wow, this is a lot of stuff. But I came out of this feeling like, I think James has got this. There's a gutsiness and a confidence in this trailer that I'm like, I actually trust that he's going to be able to tell this very massive story, but keep us very much connected to its central character, which is Superman, and central characters with Superman and Lois. And so for me, I appreciated everything. And the visual nature of this, and I'll get into it in just a second, this is a film shot in a way that I've never seen before. It's pretty incredible. Michael, you were going to say something? Or Shannon? Sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, I was going to say that, I was just going to say that, to the visuals. I mean, I also, there is an unapologetic quality to this trailer. Like I said, starting it with Crypto and his little cape, and not like, look, there's a dog and he's super. You got to go with it. But also, this is not a world where, they are going to turn the Daily Planet into something other. This is a Daily Planet with the giant fucking globe on top. This is a Luthor Corps that looks like a massive, like, there's a scale to this, to Metropolis, that feels a little bit larger than life, a little bit comic booky. And I think that's really, really cool too. To your point about this, just the visuals of everything. I mean, yes, giant kaiju and that, all of that, but like, this is a world that feels like, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I think this is what's good about it. It makes Superman feel a little bit small in a positive, like in a positive way. Like this is a trailer that doesn't go, this guy is the strongest thing in the world and nothing can stop him and he's amazing. In a world where you have giant kaiju attacking this giant over the top city and giant orbs in the sky, like this is a world where like Superman does kind of feel like, you're just one guy. Can you handle all this? And I think that there's an undercurrent of that in the trailer that makes it feel great, because what makes Superman amazing is not that he is so strong he can do anything. If anybody had those powers, you're like, that's great. It's that he just never stops no matter what. And it feels like James Gunn has created a world where you can have some real threats to Superman because you can actually go that big.
Yeah.
To what Vogel was already saying about that, the smallness, the vibe that you get is, again, this is a guy on his own, with the exception of one person. There's one person that we see with him that is encouraging, and it's Lois. I mean, the fact that you end the trailer, we've seen many Superman movies that have many trailers. That last shot, he might be punching somebody, he might be flying into the sky. He's hugging his partner, he's hugging the woman he loves. And I was like, God, that's so effective. And also there's that moment with that little kid, with that child who hoists that flag, and just saying, God, such a great moment. I mean, it reminds me, I think it was a Green Arrow comic, and Vogel will be able to correct me on this, but I think Green Arrow and Connor Hawk, like Connor is mortally wounded, This comic always makes me emotional. Sorry. Connor is wounded. Ollie yells out Clark.
Oh.
Sorry. And Superman, you hear a sonic boom. Superman lands, grabs Connor, takes off. Like,
You're right. You're right there.
Yeah,
right
I'm
there,
fine. I'm fine.
Oh.
I know how to drive.
but yeah, I mean, but I do think in a really good way, this teaser, this trailer got everyone really excited. But it does raise, like, even given everything we know that there's this Maxwell Lord sort of corporate super team. We believe that we have an Ultraman that is a creation of Luthor Core, a Bizarro, like the what Ultraman actually is very shrouded in mystery, and we only got a brief glimpse of that. And to your point, we see the Fortress of Solitude. We see Superman with that robot that most people are assuming is Kellex, the robot that sort of runs things at the Fortress of Solitude. So, you do see, even in the shot when you freeze it, you do see what looks like could be girders, but also look like the crystals. Right. So this does look like we're in the Fortress of Solitude here. In the image that John is showing on the screen, you've got him sort of holding Kellex probably in his hand. So yeah, this is a world, and James Gunn sort of teased this a bit even with the Suicide Squad. I mean, the Suicide Squad ended with a giant attack of a Starro. Like, that is wild, kaiju-esque, whatever. And so, this is a world where you don't have to explain away robots in crystal fortresses and all of the weird stuff. And so it's going to be interesting to see how far that goes. But I do think Shannon is right that, for all of the overstuffedness of this trailer that some people feel, and the look at all the heroes that are showing up, and these are all the characters in the movie, the chemistry between Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsweet, to me, came through even in this trailer.
Yep.
It just feels like these two just have the thing. In a way that, look, Brandon Routh and Kate Bosworth did not have it. Nope. And even if you love Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, I don't think you can say that Cavill and Amy Adams had it.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what you think. Yeah, we should say a couple things here. As you were reeling already, Michael, with Kellex here, there are other things that, like Metamorpho here. This is, of course, the great Anthony Barracan from Barry, who is playing Metamorpho. And, of course, Metamorpho, if you know the comics, is connected to Stag Industries because that's his father-in-law. So how is Metamorpho going to be a part of this movie? What is the situation that he is going to find himself in? What part of his body or bodies is he going to use? And when you look at Mr. Terrific is supposed to be a massive part of this movie, and they gave you just a little taste of what his ability is with his intelligence and his gadgets there as providing the shield. We only get one shot of what Shannon mentioned is the possible villain. We don't want to ruin or spoil anything, but a lot of people are speculating this is a villain. This is and if you explore this villain, Ultraman, you can find out what kind of villainy he's going to bring. So what is the energy?
Ultraman in the comics and what they're doing are two very different things. So I don't know that exploring it is going to give you that many answers.
Okay. All right. You know that they're two different things? You know that for sure?
Well, Ultraman is from a different universe. Yeah, no. Ultraman in the comics is from a different universe. It's a whole different Superman from a different universe. It's very they're not. I don't think we're touching multiverse in our first movie of a DC universe. Maybe they are. I would be shocked. But yeah.
But
I do think
Go ahead. Yeah.
No. Go ahead. Talk about
this is the one question I have. I didn't 100% buy Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor just yet. So I'm going to need to see more from him. And by the way, this has been a great year for Nicholas Hoult. He's been great in Nosferatu. I've enjoyed him in a number of films this year and TV stuff. I've caught up on the great. I think he's an excellent actor. And so I just wanted to see more from him as Lex Luthor. And I thought the Hitman 47, you don't want people making jokes about the shot of you as Lex Luthor. So I was hoping for a little bit more. If there's any criticism I have of the trailer, it's that this didn't feel overstuffed to me. This felt like a world I want to get to know because I am I grew up on comic books and whatever. So I'm like, I want to see all of this, but the Lex stuff I wish had been a little bit more harder pushed in the
I
trailer.
mean,
But
you know,
I think that
between Kevin Spacey, Jesse Eisenberg, and Gene Hackman, how can he possibly beat any of the three of them?
I don't even know what that. I wasn't even saying he has to beat them. I was just saying I wanted
No,
more.
I did, but I do. But actually, I mean, I think there's a big opportunity. Like I was joking, but I hear what you're saying, and you're not the only person that has pointed this out. I do
Oh.
think though that like Lex Luthor has never been done well in a movie. I'll go ahead and say like I think Clancy Brown in the animated series is by far the best Lex Luthor that we've ever had. But like Gene Hackman is very funny and it's a very fun performance. That is not Lex Luthor. Kevin Spacey is fine, is not
That's
Lex
terrible.
Luthor. Jesse Eisenberg is doing something. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And so we've never actually seen on the big screen that
Mhm.
Lex Luthor Superman dynamic that people who really love Lex Luthor in the comics and people who really grew up on Lex Luthor really want to see. And I think that Nicholas Hoult said in an interview recently that obviously Lex is an antagonist. Lex doesn't like Superman. Lex is going to be doing his moves to do whatever. But he said he kind of really liked kind of the direction that James Gunn was taking, and that it's a Lex that you might understand where he's coming from. And I do think one of the key things about Lex, and one of the things, and I think to what John, to a lot of what you like about Man of Steel, Lex Luthor's main thing in the comics, at least in the past several years, has really been Superman's an alien. Why are we trusting this alien?
Right.
Like we don't. You're not from here. You're not us. You're an outsider. And I think if he really leans into that, this guy is not us. This guy is outsider. This guy doesn't belong here. You'll be able to create a Lex that, while still being the villain and still being a bad guy, makes a case that you can see where people, particularly in the world we live in right now, where politicians are really good at othering people and making them the scapegoats, like you could see where that would be an interesting take. So I definitely want to see more, but I think to your point about Nicholas Holt's performances, particularly in The Great, he's really proven himself that he's an amazing actor. And if the material's there, I think he's really going to bring it to life.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to see more of their interaction, like we saw with Lois and him. I want to see that like antagonistic chemistry as well. Sorry, Shannon.
Well, and that shot of him with that pistol, that is the second shot we see.
Right,
like I feel like the first shot we see, even though it is brief, the vibe that I got, and I am taking this off of 2 seconds. The vibe that I'm getting is a little more classic Lex. I mean, I think where you might see that anger that he is able to restrain in public, I think you do see it come out. Because it did make me think about the times in like the Justice League animated series when Lex loses his shit. I was like, oh, there's the guy. That's the guy right there. I mean, I don't disagree with you that shot of him with the gun is like, that's a weird shot. Like it doesn't, and I think without context, we're not going to be able, double O Lex. It didn't quite work as well, but my guess is that the second trailer that we're going to get will probably focus on that dynamic between Clark and the rest of the antagonists.
I do wonder, John, you brought it up, Metamorpho, Rex Mason, son-in-law to Stag Industries is clearly tied to the rest of the Justice League in this movie. And we only get a really close-up shot of Metamorpho. We've seen Hawk Girl, Guy Gardner, and Mr. Terrific in their sort of lord corporate-y suits. Metamorpho's been sort of mysterious, and I wonder if like there's going to be a storyline there. Like, did Stag sort of convince everyone that Metamorpho is some kind of monster, and the Justice League are trying to bring him in, but Superman realizes he's I'm curious to what story piece, because like when you have this many characters, as everyone is saying, it's overstuffed. If those characters are just there because you really want to have those characters there and they don't all have a really specific story reason for being there, that's where you come away and go, that was too much. If everything is there for a specific reason, then we're in business. And Metamorpho, Rex Mason, a character that can turn any part of his body into any chemical, but if he's kind of a newer thing and he can't control that and things are going bad, like there's an opportunity there. So I'm really curious to see, because we've only seen that one shot of him and it's very close up, and I don't quite know. And kind of to what Shannon said about James Gunn being really good with misunderstood monsters, I hadn't thought of it until Shannon said that about the Creature Commandos episode, but you know, Metamorpho Rex Mason is a very easy character to cast as a misunderstood monster until someone like Superman comes along. And then we didn't see anything of the engineer from the Authority, who is also supposed to be in this movie. So there's even more characters than this overstuffed trailer has in it that are going to be big parts of this movie.
That's what I was just going to bring up, because Skylar Gasondo, we didn't see Skylar Gasondo in the trailer, I don't think, unless some people are speculating we did see him. I don't want to ruin who it might be. We didn't see Millie Alcock, who of course is playing Supergirl. We didn't see Perry White. We didn't see Wendell Pierce in this trailer. We didn't see Sean Gunn as Maxwell Lord. I think we got a quick shot of Cat Grant. We only saw Pa Kent. We didn't see Ma Kent in this. And the engineer, Eve Tessmacher, wasn't in this. So for all the talk about, like, you know, there's more character, we didn't see a lot of these. Otis, who is in the movie, played by Terrence Rosemore, it wasn't seen in this trailer either. So for all the stuff we got, there's even a bigger world that is going to be part of probably an official trailer when we get that coming down the road. So this is just to get us, to give us an idea of what we were going to get and what the look is. Yeah.
I saw a really good tweet. It was a picture of Clark there with Pa Kent from the beginning of the trailer. And it was like, you think he's telling him that a tornado is coming and Clark should absolutely not save him?
It's a beautiful moment. I don't know why you guys don't get it. I don't know why you Reeve stands don't get it. I don't understand. It was an awesome.
Well, one other thing.
Take that scene for 30 minutes. I know it. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
One other thing was the when we get that great shot of Guy Gardner. Prior to that, we see Superman, I'm assuming, walking into Stag Industries.
Yeah.
And he gets that can thrown at his head, and you see it kind of bounce off. He doesn't turn around. The first shot we see of Guy Gardner, there is like the mob outside of that building. He puts up a wall, and it's like the perception that people have of heroes, and maybe the perception that heroes have of people, that is going to be an interesting dynamic for them to play. And that, how does the public view these corporate sponsored heroes?
Well, they said that, right? James said that Kingdom Come was an influence in this movie, and Kingdom Come deals with how people are reacting to a new generation of heroes who aren't as majestical as the previous generation, and about leaving them behind and the battles that they have with what goes on throughout. So that element, I think, was completely there in those scenes, in my opinion, for sure. Michael, you were going to say?
No, I was going to say, I mean, look, James Gunn has made it really clear that a lot of his inspiration of writing this movie is about the world we live in today, and the divided world that we currently live in, and how a hero like Superman, like, I mean, this is not going to be in the movie, but like, if Superman was real today and you asked him about Israel and Palestine, there's no way even Superman could answer that question without half the country canceling him and saying he's horrible. Like, there's no, like it's, so I think that, like, kind of taking the idea of what Superman represents, and this character who represents hope, who is this big blue Boy Scout who wants to do the right thing, and putting him in a world that is even remotely as divided and complicated as the world that we currently live in, that if you can do that and make Superman still come out looking like Superman, you've really done something amazing.
And not just the people, the heroes may be divided as well, right?
Yeah.
The heroes might be divided on the issues and the topics and what have you, you know?
I mean, like, so, and James Gunn has said Mr. Terrific is sort of the main hero out of the Lord heroes as far as characters in the movie. So that's going to be really interesting. You know, you have a character who is an Olympic athlete and as smart as Lex Luthor and kind of a super genius. But when you have Guy Gardner on your team, there's automatic, like, Superman. How did James Gunn say it? He goes, this is a world where Superman has been around for a while. He has people he likes. He has people he doesn't like. He has heroes he likes. He has heroes he doesn't like. I'm going to place money on the fact that Guy Gardner and Superman don't look at superheroing the same way.
Yeah.
Well, and even from the comics, Guy Gardner and Rex Mason, Metamorpho, have a very contentious relationship. There are multiple issues of Justice League International where Guy Gardner pokes and pokes and pokes and pokes until Rex Mason finally just beats the hell out of him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that that's a relationship that will probably get explored.
That's an initiation thing with Guy Gardner, for God's sake. So, yeah.
I will say, I think, you know, I know we have to wrap up, but it is interesting to me because and we know this because we've had these arguments on the show. Christopher Reeve Donner people,
Yes.
by and large, don't necessarily love Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman. And there's been fights back and forth like, oh, you just want Superman your way. This isn't what Superman is. Superman represents hope. This is hope. And all the fights back and forth. And this trailer, for some people, seems to have brought people together. It's like, this is the best of Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner. This is the best of Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder. I can see elements of both. But now we have a third contender, and I have seen Christopher Reeve stands, like Richard Donner stands, attacking this trailer for being too dour, too serious. Why isn't Superman smiling? This isn't hope. And at the same time, I've seen the Zack Snyder fans going, this is too bright. This is cheesy. That fucking dog. This is not my Superman. This isn't real. And I was like, how can you have a trailer? This sort of was like, okay, we took some of what you loved and we took some of what you loved and we put it together. And somebody's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't want it. I'm like, guys.
You know why?
Guys, come
Because
on.
this is the world we live in. And James is reflecting that in the movie. So it makes all the sense in the world.
Like, you ever had a sushi burrito? Sushi burritos are delicious. A little bit of Japanese, a little bit of Mexican. What's the problem?
James Gunn's Superman is a sushi burrito. It's a sushi burrito.
Superman fusion.
I've had a turducken. It's good. I do want to bring up one thing here with the way it was shot. I want people to explore this because a lot of people complaining about the color grading and also asking questions about the look. Quite a few people have done videos over the day today, which I marvel that these people can do videos so quickly with this stuff. They asked, why does Superman? Well, it's partially because Gunn and cinematographer Henry Barham shot with a Leica Tri-Elmar lens. It's a fairly obscure wide-angle photography lens that features three user-switchable focal lengths, 16 millimeter, 18 millimeter, and 20 millimeter, all in one. And it's being used for these shots. These are why these shots are so unusual in the way the camera is moving around using the Red V Raptor camera that they're using here. So you're getting these shots that people are maybe claiming they're a little CW or whatever. And I'm just like, no, this is actually being done in an artistic point of view. They went and found an old lens so that you could evoke that old feeling of the early Superman stuff combined with making a modern take. I think it's genius.
You know what I think? I think I didn't know that there were so many people that should be in the color grading industry on Twitter. I cannot deal with like, oh, well, what is wrong with the way this is shot? I'm like, motherfucker, you work at a Bank of America in Texas. Like, calm down.
Maybe not even there. Yeah. So I liked the look. I like the energy. And I'm with you, Michael. I think they scratched enough of my itch for Man of Steel and enough of my itch that I love about 1978. Superman brought it together. And I think Corn Sweat was great. Just great. It's had one line the whole trailer, but the energy of Superman, and especially as Clark Kent, I thought he was great as Clark Kent in the limited amount of time we got to see him in this trailer as well. Completely two different energies. And I thought that was great.
I think my absolute favorite comment that I saw today that I just like threw my phone across the room is somebody put a picture of David Cornsweat as Superman and David Cornsweat as Clark Kent. And you're like, please, you're telling me nobody could tell that's the same person? This is so dumb. And I was like, sir, have you ever Supermaned in your life? Like, at least he's got different hair this time.
What is that phrase? Sir, this is a Wendy's?
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
All right. Anything more to say on this, guys? We've gone on for 40 minutes on this trailer. And I think
I'm with Shannon. Today felt a little bit like a holiday. I went to the gym and people asked me about the trailer and people were watching it on the treadmill. Like, it was like, this was a big day. This was to me like when Force Awakens trailer came out.
Ooh, that's a good comparison.
And look, Force Awakens, I have a lot of problems with it in retrospect, but the excitement the day that trailer came out and Han and Chewie rolled up into the Millennium Falcon and said, Chewie, we're home. Like, this trailer today had that level of excitement, and I'm very excited for July 11th.
Yeah. Shannon, any final words?
Summer 2025. I'm very excited that the number of films that are coming out that are getting me jazzed, very, very high. And Superman is definitely, if it's not at the top of the list, it's close to the top.
Hey, scored a few.
Oh,
come on. Let me hear it. I agree. I was really blown away by the. I did the reaction, then I rewatched it like 5 or 6 times on the TV, so I could have the biggest vision of it or seeing it, and I really loved it. Just really loved it. I love the energy. I'm so on board, and I agree with you, Michael. This has an event feel, and I think they knew, which is why they did a teaser to a teaser, which is why they released that motion poster on Monday, and people complaining, oh, do we do a teaser to a teaser now? This is how it's done, y'all. That's why they get paid the big bucks, and you're not a marketing person. This is how it works, and it exploded today, and I'm glad to see it. And it's going to get pushed back and always get pushed back, but we'll see now what happens when an official trailer drops. We get more of the story. That's going to be fun to see as well. All right, well, there you go. That's our episode for the Geek Buddies. Thank you all so much for joining us here. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, I'd like to follow us on social media. On Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies. On Instagram, at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, it's Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey.
Well, we would love it if you smash that like button below. If you subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page and check out all the amazing content he has got there. Leave your comments below. What did you think of those other trailers? What did you think of Creature Commandos? But most importantly, what did you think of the Superman teaser? What do you think is going to happen? Did it scratch your itch? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Is Jonathan Kent going to get wrapped up in a tornado? Let us know below in the comments. If you're listening to us on the podcast, leave us some stars and comments so we go up in the rankings there and more people can find us. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
One time I told my son not to save me in a hurricane, and my life's been a living hell ever since. All right.
Don't do this thing that it would be super easy for you to do. Don't do it.
Yes, because everyone will see you, and then they'll capture you, put you in a military console, and then they'll experiment on you like a unicorn. Don't do it. There we go. All right. Anyway, we'll battle this some other time. Thank you all so much. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new review. Oh, another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies. Hey!